Hello everybody, it's me, Young Falcon, and today we're going to be taking a look at Inertial Drift. This is a indie game I was sent a review key for the PC and PS4 versions, and I really am excited to cover it for you guys because I do enjoy myself a fun arcade racer, and I do love drifting around tight corners, especially when it comes to Initial D-esque games. As you know me, in my past, I love the arcades, I love all those kinds of games, and this is one that kind of lets me take that arcade experience home, and that's something I desperately need during COVID. So how does Inertial Drift hold up in the likes of other indie racers, or I guess racing games in general, and how does it hold up on its own? We're going to take a look and find out. So Inertial Drift is a pretty simple game. It's a game where you're just learning how to drift around corners, learning each track, and the story, tutorials, and game modes themselves all reflect that. There's not a lot of story here. The plot is pretty rudimentary. It's just you and your friends working together to figure out the right lines, hit the right drift angles, and all that jazz to make sure you can win the Grand Prix, which is eventually coming up during the summer. It's just friends hanging out, being nice, learning off each other, and I find that really wholesome and it's exciting to go through. On top of that, you have this very slick anime aesthetic. You have this super cool animated intro at the beginning of the game. The cars have this really awesome gyro stabilizer, which we'll cover a little bit when we get to the gameplay, and the graphics overall have this really cool cel-shaded visual along with this cyber slick aesthetic with the kind of 80s anime influences. Everything has this kind of orange bluish tint as you drift around those sunsets or the blue night cityscapes, or on highways I suppose. It's a really cool looking game. The cel shaded cars are great, and the cars have a lot of character and personality in the terms of their designs. You know, they're clearly inspired by, you know, the Initial D type of cars, the tofu one and the sort, but they just have a really nice style to them, and the fast ones look super clean, and the ones that are kind of those buggies or sports coupes, if you will, they just all look good. I think all the cars here look awesome, and I really enjoyed how they present themselves. The character designs, on the other hand, I felt were kind of okay. The faces always seemed a little bit off, but I do respect the attempts with the animated cutscenes, if you will. They have a lot of movement inside the story mode, and they kind of bounce around. However, the dialogue just felt kind of bog standard, with lack of a better word. It was okay, and it just felt like it means to progress the plot, and despite it, you know, being pretty wholesome, I just kind of found myself more often than not kind of skipping through to get to the next racing segment, which if you enjoy the art style and stuff, that's cool, but this is just my personal opinion. No knock at them. Overall, I thought the story mode and presentation was really clean, and I like all the attempts they do to help you learn the controls of the game, because it is a very interesting game to learn, and it takes a lot of getting used to, which brings me to the gameplay. Well, the gameplay is pretty interesting. You're in a car, obviously, and there's drifting, like on every corner, and you use the right stick instead of, I guess, mashing left and right and messing with your gear system to drift. Every car is built in with this gyro stabilizer, if you will, and you hit that right stick perfectly to drift around corners. Whether you take a tight break and slingshot around a corner hitting those perfect angles, or you slowly steer into one while turning to give your car just enough of an edge to hit those weaving snake-like paths. There's a lot of fun stuff to be had here, and learning how to beat everyone's ghost and seeing people's own ghosts teach you how you should drift around certain spots or corners, or how to hit that top speed is really, really awesome. And thanks to the presentation of the game, you see brake lights kind of appear when people are taking corners, showing exactly when they brake, for how long to hit that angle and all that. It does a lot to give you the opportunity to learn the game, and then when you replay your ghost, it feels so satisfying to see it kind of left in the dust as you're just blazing by. The game has a lot of modes, you know, like time trial and ghost races, as I mentioned earlier, to kind of get you into the zone and, you know, hope you focus on drifting and learning those lines. And it has a lot of great handling. Some cars actually handle really, really hard, and some other cars handle extremely easily. You just drift around corners like it's absolutely nothing, barely even tapping your brake and stuff, while others you have to tap your brake if you even want to hit a corner or drift. The car's handling is all different and unique, and it really lets you play to your play style. If you want to go super fast and take corners, or if you want to do hard brakes and do cool drift maneuvers, there's a car for you, and I think that's really awesome. The overall tracks are pretty standard. I think they're, you know, decent lines to take, and they definitely give off those maximum right Initial D vibes in terms of track design, and I can't really knock it here. Yeah, they can get a little bit basic at times with just a couple of right lefts and right lefts and kind of ovalish designs, but a lot of them do offer a lot of snake-like movements and then sudden sharp rights and things that can really excite the gameplay, and I had a great time racing on these. My only gripe with the controls is I feel like the turning was decentivized a little too much. Some cars just don't turn whatsoever. It feels like they can't without drifting, and when you're taking straights and you just kind of want to come into a corner without the right car, you're more often than not playing with the first two because it just feels like there's no use, at least in terms of fine-tuning those controls. I mean, I know it's doable and I know it's a steep learning curve, but for me personally, I couldn't really get the hang of it, and I kind of stuck with those first two because I didn't really understand the mechanics or felt like I didn't have enough space to actually do what I wanted my car to do. This isn't really a knock, it's just more of a hard learning curve. This game is very difficult to figure out, but overall I thought the gameplay and track design was really clean. The modes they offer are also really nice. I really enjoyed the elimination mode, where it's kind of a drag race where you're learning how to take those lines and perfect drift patterns to stay in the lead and blow out their score. It's always satisfying to do. And then you have other ones where it's just a normal race. Thankfully you don't slam into opponents or anything. They have this phase thing, so you phase through them, so you don't have to worry too much about running into other cars or running off the road or anything like that, although that does eliminate a little bit of the fun of ramming people off the road. This isn't that kind of game, so I completely understand it. I also definitely enjoyed the soundtrack. It has this really nice synth vibe to it, and all the music just really felt great, especially the chilled out tracks. So overall, Inertial Drift has a lot of great content for such a small package. I definitely enjoyed my time with this game. There's a lot of interesting cars to take on with a huge learning curve for some of them. The track design is pretty awesome, and the characters and personality of the game just is great. I'd love to see free updates, maybe DLC or something of that nature to add more tracks, gameplay modes and things of that nature in the future, which would be awesome. Or maybe it's cool to just do a full-blown sequel, but if you are a fan of Initial D or games of that nature, maybe you like the Maximum Ride, or you're just looking for an arcade-like experience that isn't quite hotshot racing in terms of its retro design, but maybe something a little more modern, a little more serious, I think this is definitely the game for you. Again, if you love those types of Bandai Namco racers, this is the one you're gonna want to keep your eye on. So thank you all so much for watching this video. Thank you for giving me a review code, the devs over at Inertial Drift, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. This was a blast to play, and I hope you guys have a great one. Peace.